Want to start off today's show, Wednesday, Penn State week, asking you guys, what is your favorite win over the Penn State Nittany Lions as a Michigan football fan? You know, if you're a younger guy, if you're under 20, under 25, you might be saying, well, you know, that 2016, 2018 wins, those were big. Oh, 2014, Brady Hoke's last year, he got a win over Penn State. If you're a little older than that, you remember some of those big-time wins back in the day. Folks, there are so many to choose from. This rivalry got started in 1993 when Penn State came over to the Big Ten. Michigan won that first game. Then Penn State actually reeled off 3 straight after that. Then Michigan won 8 straight from 97, to 2007, right? Couple ones for me. 97 won, right? The Judgment Day, Michigan went into Penn State, number 1 Penn State, beat them 34-8. 1999, Penn State was ranked number 2. Michigan, also on the road, was down 10. Tom Brady, with under 5 minutes left, scored 2 touchdowns, won the game. 0-2 overtime game, that was a big-time one, I remember. 0-5, Mario Manningham, last play of the game. We got a bad story about that in the family. I had to leave the game early in the fourth quarter to be somewhere. Terrible decision on my part. Family members will never let me forget it. I also love 2016 and 2018. Those absolute blowouts. 2016 Penn State Big Ten champions. Was it 42-10 or whatever it was, or 49-10? And then 2018, Michigan was up 42-0 at one point in the game against number 14 Penn State in 2018. And Michigan was also ranked number 5, like they are now in the AP poll. So I told you a bunch of mine. I'm going to say 1997 is the one, Judgment Day. But I also really love that 2005 one. Not a very good Michigan team, but Penn State was also, that was Penn State's only year of that the only loss that entire season 05 was that Chad Henne to true freshman Mario Manningham with 1 second on the clock. They snapped the ball from around the 15-yard line, hit Manningham right over the middle for a touchdown to get the win over Penn State. Light up the comments. Let me know all the memories you have of this Michigan-Penn State rivalry that frankly, it's coming up on 30 years right now, right? This is 2022. They started in 93. This is the kind of end of a 30-year cycle in this rivalry. Let me know down in the comments. I haven't had to do a ton of previews of the opponents so far this year because, frankly, Michigan has outmanned every opponent, and I don't think anyone really thought any of these games were potential losses, right? Okay, you could slip up and have a bad game, but everyone knew that these first 6 games, Michigan was demonstrably better than every team they have faced so far, especially the first 3 games. And even the last 3 Big Ten games, despite Maryland getting that last touchdown, cutting it to within 1 score, Michigan has pretty much comfortably won every single game. Before we jump into some of the keys to the game I want to focus on, I want to tell you what's happening at the stadium, some things to keep an eye on as a fan. The 1997 team will have their 25th year anniversary of the 97 National Championship, and Charles Woodson will be in the house like he's been several weeks with Fox Big Noon Kickoff, and they will celebrate and honor his 1997 Heisman Trophy winner season. Lloyd Carr will be there as well. 15-year anniversary, funny enough, of winning the Bobby Dodd Coach of the Year award. And I'm like, 15 years? What is that, 2007? I'm like, the App State year, the Oregon year? Come on. And sure enough, he won some Coach of the Year award, which is coach and like exemplary citizenship or something like that. So I'm not sure if it's like a national Coach of the Year, but nevertheless, they're honoring for it, 15-year anniversary of that one. I thought he had probably a few years that maybe he'd be more deserving of some sort of coaching award. Former Michigan student, never was a student athlete at Michigan, but multi-time Olympian, like 17-time gold medalist. Michael Phelps was a student at Michigan in between his Olympic runs because his swimming coach was actually at Michigan as well. Will be honored as the honorary captain. He'll go out there and kind of flip the coin, do a little one of these, and be on his way. So keep those things out. I'm not sure if they'll all be on the broadcast if you're watching from home, but those are the comings and goings in and around the pregame at the stadium. And I'm guessing they'll honor the 97 team probably like in the middle of the first or second quarter at a TV timeout like they typically do. Later on in the video, got an update on an injury that you're going to want to know about. Have reached out, talked to a few sources on what to expect from guys like Roman Wilson, Trente Jones, and others. Have a definite update that you won't want to miss later on in today's show. But wanted to start talking about J.J. McCarthy a little bit more before I turn to some Penn State observations. I came across this stat, and it is crazy. You saw what I talked about yesterday. After the interception against Indiana, JJ went 10 of 10 for like 104 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions to end the game. How about this one? So far this season, on play action passes, right? Play action passes, J.J. McCarthy is 22 of 25. That's 88%, folks. 88% passing, 384 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Why does that matter? Well, Penn State has a hell of a secondary, and they've been pretty good against the run this year as well. I think this could be a differentiator in the game where Penn State's trying to key in on Blake Corum, leaving the corners and safeties on an island, thinking that they can outman Michigan's wide receivers and tight ends and get a safety, get somebody to bite up on that play action just a little bit, or a tight end, a linebacker, let a tight end slip behind him, Luke Schoonmaker or others. And McCarthy has been cooking. The nuance of turning his back a little bit to the line of scrimmage and having to go through that pump, that play action fake, has not thrown him off his game. And in fact, it's enhanced his game, 10% higher completion percentage, 88% versus his nation-leading 78% completion. I want to ask you guys this question. With all the absurd stats we've talked about with J.J. McCarthy this week, I want to know, not including Blake Corum, right? That's the easy one. We all know that. One of the Heisman frontrunners, Corum, Michigan's 11 touchdown man so far this year. Who is your team MVP? It's probably easy to say J.J. McCarthy. I think an argument could be definitely made for McCarthy. Argument could be made for Luke Schoonmaker, right? He is potentially on pace to break Michigan's 20 catches so far this year. Michigan's record for a tight end is 53 in a season, so he's not necessarily on pace, but he's only starting 3 games so far, maybe. But I'm going to throw a different one at you. How about Mike Sainristil? For me, switching positions, played the last 3 years as wide receiver, and he played a lot. Switching over to nickelback, folks, I think Mike Sainristil on the defensive side has been my MVP for this entire season if I take Blake Corum out of consideration. Got some info on the coaching staff, right? What happened in the first staff? Players were shook up a little bit. Certainly a coach goes down. And, I just thought about this the other day. Like, what if someone passed out at your workplace, at our workplace, right? Sam, what would you do, right? I'd be like, whoa, what the hell's going on here? People would be freaking out, right? It would probably be a pretty rough day of business for at least a few hours trying to figure out what happened to him. You don't know. Did he have a heart attack? Is his life in danger? Was it something like a seizure that's scary in the moment, but not as scary maybe, for life or death? But what the source told me was Mike Hart's responsibility as run game coordinator is basically to communicate to Sherrone Moore, to Jim Harbaugh, and Matt Weiss what he's seeing from the running game and whether or not it makes sense to continue to, go on the ground, or, hey, let's switch it up, go a little more pass heavy. They're keying in. And you saw in that first half that Indiana's run, Michigan got that 50-yard run from Blake Corum, and then Michigan started going run heavy. But Indiana's game plan was to stop the run, and Michigan made no adjustments until after halftime. So Mike Hart wasn't there for it, folks. And because of that, he wasn't giving that feedback up to Sherrone Moore on the sideline or up in the booth to Matt Weiss or Jim Harbaugh, of course. And as such, Michigan apparently didn't really make any adjustments in between drives, right? The team will either score or punt or, of course, have a turnover, which we don't hope that never happens. And then Hart will say, like, look, here's what I'm seeing from the running game. It's either working, let's keep it going, or we need to open some things up. Let's switch up to passing. And Jim Harbaugh and the offensive staff pulled together, kind of took those responsibilities that Hart normally has and came up with a more pass-heavy game plan, especially inside the 10-yard line. Cornelius Johnson, Luke Schoonmaker with those short touchdown catches in the second half. So Hart's absence definitely hurt, and Fred Jackson will, maybe have some of those responsibilities on Saturday, although Hart has been back. He's zoomed into a team and coaches meeting as of yesterday, so we'll see if potentially he can make a quick comeback and maybe on the sideline on Saturday. We'll see. The Wolverines are 6.5-point favorites on Saturday against Penn State. Number 5 versus number 10, 51.5-point over-under. The money has come in so far on Penn State heavier than Michigan, right? This line went from 7.5 to 6.5 in 3 days or so, and 70% so far has come in on Penn State. I'm not sure why, right? This is a maze-out game. This is a Michigan home team that has pretty much dominated Penn State over the last 3 decades in Michigan Stadium. Outside of the 2020 COVID year, folks, Michigan dominated Penn State under Jim Harbaugh, right? 2016, 2018 at Michigan Stadium. So I think Michigan has a little bit of a built-in advantage. Maybe that's why they're 6.5 points favorites and not less than that. But I am definitely betting Michigan in this one. I'm doing it at our sportsbook partner, BetUS. I encourage you to use BetUS if you want to have a little more fun in and around sports and put a little money on it, right? Don't bet any more than you can lose. You afford to lose, right? Gamble responsible, as we say. 1-800-GAMBLER, bottom of the screen. But if you do so, make sure you get the best sign-on bonus in the game. And that's with BetUS. Use promo code GOBLUE, no spaces, and get going. Bet on Michigan this weekend. Bet some Thursday night football. Bet NFL, whatever it is. Put $20 in the game. Put 10. Put 50. Put 100 if you're a big baller. But make your first deposit. Get 125% deposit bonus. A little bit more cash in the bank for you to bet with. Chatsports.com/GoBlue. Promo code is GoBlue. Let's look at a few keys to beating Penn State for these Michigan Wolverines. All right. I will admit this. I wrote Penn State off after like the first week. I kind of looked at the box score. Okay, Penn State, whatever. Sean Clifford, more interceptions. They're bringing in Drew Aller. This team's already done. They're 7-5. That's kind of what I thought they were going to be. Michigan's going to have no problem with them this year. But then they beat Auburn, right? Maybe Auburn's not that good. I'm not sure. But what I've seen from this Penn State offense in admittedly not the toughest schedule. People make fun of Michigan's schedule. Penn State's getting a lot of credit for going in and winning against Auburn, but I'm not sure if Auburn's more than a 5 or 6 win team themselves. So you might have a little bit more of a name on the front of the jersey kind of credibility there with beating Auburn. But this offense is better than expected. I thought they were going to be good on defense, bad on offense this year. They're kind of good on both. Maybe really good on defense, decently good on offense. Michigan must not give up big plays. I'll tell you a little bit more about Penn State's offense from a big play perspective here in a second. But I mentioned yesterday we're going to give away a couple T-shirts for a new subscriber. One for a new, one for an existing subscriber once we hit 22,000. Got like 50 subscribers or 60. What was the number we got yesterday? Like 60 subscribers since yesterday. So we're getting pretty close. 263 more are needed. So if you haven't subscribed yet, got an opportunity to win a free T-shirt. And if you have subscribed, send the link to somebody. We're going to give away a T-shirt to a subscriber as well. 263 more. Can we get there by Saturday? Can we get there by Sunday? Let's try. YouTube.com/Michigan TV. The Penn State offense, folks, 443 yards per game. Number 38 in the country. 251 yards passing. It's kind of crazy, right? 251 yards passing puts them as 59th, basically dead center, dead mediocre in the country in passing offense, right? 25 years ago, 251 yards would have put you in the top 15, right? That's how much the offenses have gotten better from a passing perspective. Rushing, they're pretty good. Number 33 in the country, almost 200 yards per game, and averaging 34.5 points per game at number 37. One player that has really changed this offense is true freshman running back Nick Singleton, all right? 5-star. I believe he was number 31 overall in the 24/7 Sports Composites. He has added a big play element that Penn State has not had since Saquon Barkley about 3 or 4 years ago, and it is paying off big time. He's leading the team in rushing. 63 carries so far this year. And there's only been, there's been a couple games where he's only gotten 10 carries, right? He had 21 carries against Northwestern in a slugfest that they beat the Nittany Lions last week. But the prior couple weeks he had 10 carries, but he was putting up big numbers there, right? So that's how he's averaging 7.3 yards per carry. That's how he's averaging almost 100 yards per game through Penn State's 5 games. But the big caveat here, it could be good or bad, depending on what side of the coin you're looking at it. 436 yards right there. 269 of them have come on 5 rushes, right? He's got like a 70-yard rush. He's got a 60-yard rush. He's got a 50-yard rush. He has had 5 massive rushes that have really slanted that number for him. So my takeaway right now is Michigan can focus in on him a little bit. We all know we're getting from Sean Clifford. We all know we're getting sometimes from the Penn State offense. It's not been typically explosive from the passing perspective. If you're focusing on him, limit the big plays. Don't give up a 70-yard run to him. Don't give up a 50-yard run from him. He doesn't do that well in the 1 to 5 to 6 to 7-yard range, right? He's not kind of just clipping off 6-8 yards a carry like we've seen from Blake Corum, like we saw from Hassan Haskins. So limit him from big plays. I think that really limits the Penn State offense. I'll have more on it in a second. Got another running back to keep an eye on, but want to know what city you are watching from right now here on Wednesday evening, just around 6:30 p.m. on the East Coast. Let me know what city you're watching from. Comment it down in the comments here on YouTube. Hell, maybe you found a friend that also watched the show that you didn't know about, but we'll give some subscriber and some viewer shout outs on the show Friday from where you guys are watching from, see if we've got a cluster of people in any particular city. Katron Allen, another true freshman, right? 4-star. He was not as highly ranked. It was in the 5-star range. He was like the number 250 player in last year's class. 2 true freshmen leading Penn State's rushing attack. And this is where the surprise comes in for me. I think sometimes when you're not paying attention to a team every week and you go to pay attention on them, I had certainly heard of what they've been doing. I knew about Singleton being a big-time recruit and all that. But Allen has surprised me a little bit. He's second on the team, 303 yards rushing. Doesn't have the big play capability necessarily as Nick Singleton does, but he is getting the job done. And with 2 and really, they've got 3 or 4 guys they lean on in the running game a lot, but 2 true freshmen, a lot of fresh legs. Even if you stop Nick Singleton, you still got to worry about Katron Allen. So Michigan, in my opinion, the key to victory should be to force Penn State to throw and not let them rack up chunks of yards on the ground. And we'll see what happens with that game. I'll have more on this matchup, kind of do a little preview coming up on Thursday and Friday for you guys, diving into more of where Michigan's strengths and potential weaknesses are against Penn State. I'm putting the over-under 28 points for Michigan on Saturday. Let me know down in the comments. Do they go over that? Do they go under it? Or hell, I guess you could say. Let's just say if you think 28, that means over, right? If you think they're going to hit it on the dot. Under, go ahead and give me a U. History would say that they're going to go over, right? Especially under Jim Harbaugh with Penn State. That is what we'd expect from a ranked Michigan team at home. They have done 42 points and 49 points as a ranked team in Michigan's 2 matchups against Penn State under Jim Harbaugh when they're ranked, right? 2020 COVID year, they were not ranked. Roman Wilson will be in uniform, will be on the sideline, and will be back in the lineup on Saturday. We left the game, was knocked unconscious against Iowa on a play that I don't think many people saw. And then Indiana, he didn't make the trip, didn't start, although potentially could have played if it was a big-time game like this. We saw this with Donovan Edwards. We've seen this with others. Michigan will typically hold a guy back an extra week if they're we're at the precipice of, hey, I could go, but I'm 90%, et cetera. Get him to 100% for the games that matter, and that's the deal here with Roman Wilson. Andrew Anthony and some others had nice plays. Ronnie Bell, those 11 catches, but having another weapon there, Roman Wilson back in the starting lineup or back in the top 3 or 4 wide receiver rotation certainly will be a plus against Michigan or against Penn State. So keep an eye out for him. He'll be back in the field on Saturday. Tomorrow, we're going to have a video, folks. I'm going to dive into Michigan's game plan. Had some nice conversations, some text over the last 24, 48 hours on how Michigan's approaching this game and maybe some things that they've held back from play calling on offense, special teams, and a little bit on defense that we all might not be expecting that they'll see coming up on Saturday. All right, folks, we will be back on Thursday. Make sure you have yourself a hell of a Wednesday evening. Until I see you tomorrow, go Blue.